Hi, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of July 15th through July 21st, 2024, and I'm working with a mix of products from my stash, primarily from Cocoa Daisy and Studio Calico. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Documenting the week of July 15th through 21st, and I'm using just like crushing some kits and supplies. So first of all, I have these two cards that were from the July kit from Cocoa Daisy, and they have this one that is dated here, so it's got the calendar for the month of July, which is why I want to make sure to use it. I'm going to use it as my title card. And then this one that says Staycation 2024, and because it has 2024 on it, I want to use this one as well. Now, I'm not really doing a staycation this year. I am taking an actual huge vacation, which I'm actually on right now while you guys are watching this video, if you're watching it when it first comes out. But this week, I didn't really go anywhere or do much, so I'm going to use that to kind of journal about how I stayed in this week and how I'm kind of taking it easy leading up to my big vacation. So I printed this photo of my kitchen. I did a lot of cleaning this week, so I had photographed that. And then this card was the back. So last week, I had pulled this card here that was from this Cocoa Daisy kit, because I love this card and I wanted to use it. And on the back, it has this card, which I also love. And I never use both cards in a kit, but I'm gonna try it this time because when I saw it there and I'm like, the colors still go. So what I did was I printed this photo a little whiter than 3x4 so it will cover up that tape. I think that's gonna work. I might trim it a little bit more so it can be like there. But my thought is I'm gonna just put this in the pocket with that and get to use that card as a result. So let's see what else happened this week. I went to the movies on the weekend, so that's probably not near the staycation. We're going on a lot of walks, a lot of lounging, so that goes near the staycation. Here's, reading in bed, and I've been working on my stamp organization. I got some new markers, and then this is also new markers. Maybe I'll put these two together on a 4x6. So I had a couple of 4x6 pockets here, and these were just the way the page protectors worked out. I already did that one. And honestly, I didn't need the 4x6 on the other side because, I did that, but it was just the page protector I had previously put in my album because I'm trying to force myself to mix up my page protectors. But this week, I don't really have that many things to put in 4x6 pockets. I just had one photo that printed that way. So I'm going to make it work. I'm also using this kit here, which is an older older Studio Calico kit that I had worked with when it first came out, probably in 2021, I would guess. And I had labeled it July or August. I don't know what kit this is. I don't know what month it actually came out, but I looked through it and thought the themes were very summery, so it would be good to use in July or August. Here it is, July. So I'm gonna look through here and see what I want to include. So I'm gonna do the 4x6 cards first. And there was, so I didn't end up printing it because I didn't get a good photo, but it did rain a lot this week. And it was just kind of like gross summer weather, not good summer weather. So I could use that one, but I think I'm not going to. I really like that, but I also think I like this one. I kind of want to just do like some journaling about each day. So I think I'm going to put this one here. I don't love these colors together, but there is like the orange. So I think I'm going to play on that to kind of make these coordinate. And then let's see, what else do I have to document during this week? So I'm going to look in my Hobonichi Cousin, which looks like this. So this is this week, and I'm just going to look at this. I'm going to have it off camera here and just kind of think about what stories do I want to tell and select cards that work for that. So this one would be if there was a good meal I wanted to document. I guess I do have a meal thing I could document, but I'm not sure if I'm going to. I really like the card. I don't like that it's tan though. on a little adventure. So I could document the weekend, or not the weekend, but Saturday. We went out and did some stuff. Summer vacation mode, I like that one. Hello today, both of those are nice. I really like this one. Good times would be good to cut out. The ice cream is cute. This is a good one for a bullet point list, and I have a lot of photos, so I don't know that I need the dark one. So I like this one also for a bullet point list, but this one has more white space. Okay, so these are actually the same card, but in colors. So I think I want the white one. And then here, I feel like this card was also in here twice too. Just a different color, maybe? I thought I saw it. Maybe not. Oh yeah. Okay. These are good to cut out if I want to put stories on photos. So I'm going to put that aside. And then this card I got twice too. I don't know what was going on with this kit. And then that one's just plain. Weird. Anyway, so let's see. I think I want this one. I'm going to put these two together, probably up here. And then that's all like staycation stuff. This is going to be this Saturday. I'll document that with that. And then I have another photo here. I put this for some random stories from the week. And then I need one more thing to go there. And I could do this one, but I don't know that I have enough stories. Let me see what I have. Yeah, not a lot was going on this week. So probably like a filler would be good. This one maybe because it brings in the orange some more and the teal, which kind of ties with that. So that might work. I'm gonna see what else there is in here. I also like this one. You know what? I like this one. I'm gonna go with this one because it's got the blue. So it ties to these cards and connects the two kits. It's a good filler card, and I think it kind of goes with this week because there was a little bit of like annoyance and stuff going on this week that I don't really want to journal about because it wasn't really like that important, but I like to kind of nod to it when it's happening so that when I look back in here, I can kind of remember that. Okay, let's see, what else do we have in here? These fun alphas. I don't know that I want to use this. It might be a little too colorful for what I'm going with. Let's see here. We've got all these tags. This might be good for like staying in. And then like I could put this one on like that photo. And then maybe want to do one of these on here. I think I want to, where was that label card? I might want to cut these out. Well, no, those are too big. I want maybe to put a little bit of journaling on there. I do have these in here. And then there's this 1, 2, and 3. Not sure about those. Oh, and then there's these like flowers, which I never even opened, that I might want to play with these. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward and start figuring out how I want to get this one put together.
Okay, so I feel like the spread took me a while, and I feel like it always takes me a while when I'm not working directly with a kit. I don't know. So for my title card, I did this previously on one of these, but what I did was I just highlighted the week, the dates on it, rather than adding the dates to with a date stamp or something like that. I just used my gray mild liner and highlighted the week, and I really like just that different mix up for these weeks that are using that calendar card. Now, like I said in the intro, I trimmed this one down just a little bit, so it's probably like 3.4 by 4 inches rather than the 3 by 4. So I could adhere it on top of that summer card, and I like having that. It looks nice, it looks different, and I was able to use that summer card, which I really, really liked. Then I'm moving on to this card here, which is a journaling card that just says, here's the plan. And what my plan was for this card is to stamp out a title for each day. And so I started just stamping it, and then I realized, it'd be easier to write it out. So this is my favorite alpha stamp. You guys probably have seen me use it if you watched any of my videos. I use it all the time. I got it on Amazon, and I do have a link for it down in the description box. But basically, it's just the perfect size alpha stamp to add words to my journal or to my project life. I also use it on scrapbook layouts. You could see Pumpkin's ears poking in there. He's taking a bath by the window while I'm crafting. But anyway, so before I start stamping out my words, I decided to write out one word or phrase for each day. And I'm doing it this way because when I'm stamping, I'm going to not do them just in order, like the Monday word first and the Tuesday word. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump around and do that so I can kind of use the same letter multiple times. And it makes it more interesting. It makes it go a little quicker, but it also makes it more interesting because I kind of like play a mental game with myself to see like what order to go to use the same one like 3 times. I know it's kind of silly, but otherwise it could get pretty tedious just stamping this over and over again. So I actually sped this portion up to 4 times again. I know you guys, I'm making my videos slower and sharing more of my process, but for the stamping part, I really don't think you want to watch me stamp these in real time. It can get very tedious. But while I'm working on this spread, I was watching an episode of Degrassi Next Generation. I'm rewatching that show. I love it so much. And I'm like on season 14 or something right now. Or maybe 12. I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it's one of the higher number seasons. And I'm just watching TV and relaxing and working on this and just taking my time with my spread. So back to my card here, what I decided to do was just pick like one theme of something that happened each day. Now, of course, I could have just done like work for the work days or office and done it multiple times. And I have done stuff like that in the past, but I wanted to mix it up a little. So for Monday, I wrote telecommute, which I did telecommute on Monday and Thursday, but I decided to focus on something else on Thursday. But Monday, I just kind of focused on my telecommuting routine. Tuesday, I wrote work and errands because I was in the office and then I ran some errands on my way home from work, which is not typical for me. So I wanted to make note of that. Wednesday, I wrote storms. So I was in the office again, but rather than just writing the same thing that I wrote on Tuesday, I focused on the fact that we had a storm in the middle of the day, which has been really, really frequent this summer. And it's been very kind of weird where it'll get like ridiculously dark outside and storm for like 30 minutes. And it did that like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. or something like that. So I made a note of that for Wednesday. Thursday, I did a lot of deep cleaning in my house and finally deep cleaned a lot of my kitchen. I've been putting it off for a while. And then Friday was again a busy work day. Saturday, we went to the movies and I did journal about that on another card, but it was still like the highlight of the day. So I wanted to put on here as well. And then Sunday was a crafting day. So I brought over my other journaling cards because I like to do all of my journaling for the spread at once because it helps me figure out what stories will go where on which card and how, like I have the numbered card that has 5 stories. So I need to come up with 5 stories to go on that card. But then I also have these 2 other cards that have space for longer stories. So we need to come up with what are those longer stories I'm going to tell. If you are new to project life, then I would say that telling the story of like, this is what I did on Monday or this is what I did on Tuesday really does make the process go much more smoothly. It makes it very easy. But for me, I feel like that gets a little boring, both from a documenting perspective and a reading back perspective, especially if your life is like mine and you don't have a ton of stuff going on all of the time. So, or a ton of like different stuff. So you're following the same routine over and over again, it could get boring. So what I do instead is I like to lump my stories by theme. And I talked a lot about this in a recent video. If you missed it, I just shared it. It is called a new series that I'm doing on Project Life, Tips and Tricks. And my first episode is all about journaling. So if you want more tips about journaling and how I approach journaling in Project Life, and you want to see a ton of examples, go check that video out. I will link it at the end of this video as well. Anyways, back to this specific process video. So on this staycation card, I am journaling about getting ready for our actual vacation and how we are kind of taking it easy this July, leading up to a huge travel month in August. And then at the bottom of this card, it has space for you to put the date and the location. And I thought that was kind of weird that there's a location thing on a staycation card because isn't that just home? But I stamped out home. And then I didn't want to put a date in there because it's really just the whole month. And at least for this spread, the whole week. So what I decided to do was add a geotag to put like the location of home. But these geotags were super cute. I love the color, but it was just too big. And I wish I had decided to put it on there before I did my journaling because I would have just made my journaling fit around it. But it wasn't working for me. So I went in my stash and I found this sheet that also had some geotags. The color wasn't as good, but it was smaller. So I was able to add it on there. And it felt like something was missing, so I added a tiny attacher staple. Totally not necessary. It was a sticker, so it was going to stay down on its own anyway, but it just added a little bit of something to that card. Next, I'm going to move on to the card that says, "Hello, one little adventure," or "on a little adventure," which I have right there. I put it next to this one from the movies, and I'm going to put both of these together in a 4x6 pocket, and I'm just going to turn them over and add some just washi tape to hold them together to create a 4x6 card, and that will slip into that 4x6 pocket. And I'm going to journal just about going to the movies on Saturday. We went out for brunch and did a little shopping and went to the movies with some friends. So I'm adding all of that to this story and just journaling a little bit more about it. It's not really a big adventure. So this is just a situation of making the journal cards work for you and the stories that you want to tell. It doesn't bother me that it says on a little adventure and just like going to the movies, because I guess that counts as an adventure in my mind. If it did bother you, you could totally use this card still and just cover up that circle where it says on an adventure with like a chipboard circle, and it would look super cute still. So, there's just a lot of ways to manipulate your cards and make them work for you. I'm doing my journaling here. I was having so many issues with my journaling. I kept having to use whiteout. I use whiteout a lot, which is one of the reasons I really like journaling on white cards as opposed to colored ones, because I have had to white out on a colored card before and it does not look good. So with the white cardstock though, you tend to not really be able to see that you used whiteout, which is very, very awesome. At the bottom, it has a spot for a rolling date stamp, so I do add that on there for the date that we went to the movies. And then let's see, what am I working on next? I think I was just kind of thinking about what I wanted to do next. I know I wanted to do stories on that 1 through 5 card, but I wasn't sure yet what stories I wanted to put on there. You guys know I always do like a bullet point list of stories, but for this spread, I have that card that says, here's the plan with a story per day, which kind of used up a lot of my stories. So I was still kind of thinking about whether I could come up with 5 more stories or what I wanted to do. And while I was thinking about that, I decided to work on my embellishment clusters. I'd like to add some sort of repeated embellishment across most of my spreads. And for this one, I decided to use these plastic flowers because they were in the Studio Calico kit that I'm working on crushing. I didn't end up using all of them, but I tried, and there's so many in there. The few that were left ended up going in my stash, and that's totally fine. But I did use a lot of them, and what I'm doing is just sticking them down on various photos. And there were a few, there were die cut pieces in that kit also, and there were some page flag ones that had the same shape. So I did use that on 3 of the cards with the florals. And then on some of the other ones, I didn't put anything at this point in time. So this is kind of how I like to do my embellishing on Project Life, is I create a repeated formula cluster, but I don't always do the exact same thing on each one. I will pull from the same recipe. So for this one, I'm using these flowers, and I'm using those paper tags. There's 3 of them that ended up on 3 of them. And then you're going to see pretty soon, I'm going to take these over to my sewing machine and add some stitching as part of my formula. And I'm going to pull over a white word phrase strip sheet as part of my formula as well. So I kind of try to think of it as a menu of embellishments. I have the flowers, the word phrase strips, the page flags, and the stitching. And on each of these little embellishment clusters, I will use some or all of the pieces in my little formula, but not everything, not necessarily, especially for something like this where the flowers vary in size and all the photos are different. So some of them can accommodate more space. The only one I don't add stitching to is this one here of pumpkin. And that's because I already adhered it onto that card from last week. So if I added stitching, it would go through and destroy the card from last week. So if I had thought it through before adhering it down, I could have done the stitching, but I didn't. So that's totally fine. Before I go over to my sewing machine though, I'm working on adding all of the embellishments to all of the cards and photos that I want to. And I didn't mention, but earlier I added the chipboard piece from the kit that says, "This is super fun," onto that photo of me from a walk. When I'm living life and taking photos, I often take photos knowing that I'm going to want to leave some empty space to add words or embellishments. So taking a photo of my feet like that while going for a walk gives me that opportunity, and I definitely wanted to use it. I did consider putting like a label sticker there and journaling about taking walks every evening, but that ends up being one of my stories on that 1 through 5 card. So I didn't need to add any additional stories on any of the additional photos because I already had enough stories on the journaling cards. So I took this big stack of photos and cards over to my sewing machine off camera, and I stitched through each of them with some white thread. And then what I'm doing now is just pulling those threads through to the back and using some tape to adhere them down. And there's probably a better sewing way to do this, but this is how I do it because I'm not really a seamstress. I pretty much exclusively use my sewing machine for crafting, paper crafting. I do kind of know how to use it, and I've done basic sewing things, but really this is the extent of what I do. I don't really do a lot of sewing projects anymore, and I never got that good at it. But yeah, I'm just going through the same pattern on every single card that has one of these flowers, except for the one that I didn't stitch, and adhering them down with just some tape on the back. And then I'm going to put them all back on the spread and arrange everything as they should go. The last thing I'm going to have to do is that 1 through 5 card. So I'm still while I'm working on this, I'm thinking, what stories do I want to tell? What else do I need to say during this week? Oh, and then I'm adding those white word phrase strips. So these are some that I pulled over from my stash. I just picked one sheet this week. I tend to grab the neutrals most often from my stash because they go with so many bright, colorful photos or kits, whatever I'm working with. A neutral always works. When I use word phrase strips, I use them most commonly as an embellishment cluster on their own, where I stack 3 of them together. And when I do that, I will pull over 3 different colors, and one of them is always a neutral. But for something like this, where I'm adding them to an embellishment cluster with other things, I'm really just putting one word phrase strip per card. And I don't want to add more colors, so I'm using white. I don't end up adding one on every single flower. I don't think. I added on most of them. And I'm just thinking about, generalized themes. And when I choose a word phrase strip to go on a photo or a card to embellish, I tend to try to find the most specific word on the sheet that works. So, there's those very general words, it says, remember this or love this, those, let's see, what do I have? Remember today, those types of things. And I try not to use those ones unless nothing else on the sheet works. So sometimes there's more specific ones that say, this was yummy, Tuesday, things like that are more specific that won't work on every photo. So I try to use those ones first so that because I know I can always use the remember this on pretty much any photo, right? So I save those for the ones where nothing else works. Now I'm working on this journaling card, so I wanted to add a little bit more text to each one. And I'm looking at my Hobonichi cousin off screen. If you're curious about that, I do go into that in that journaling project life video that I talked about earlier. But you also can see some flip through videos of my Hobonichi cousin on my YouTube channel. I have a flip through of every month so far. And the most recent one I just shared was the June one. The July flip through will be coming very soon. And in the flip throughs, I share kind of how I'm using my Hobonichi cousin as a daily journal, but I also use it to document in the weekly spreads in there. And that it's a planner if you're not familiar with what the Hobonichi cousin looks like. On the weekly spreads, I keep track of what I do every day and like the little micro stories of the day. And I use that as a reference while working on my project life, because sometimes when I'm putting these spreads together, the week just happened. But other times it's been a month or 2 or 3, or it could be a year by the time I get to the spread, depending on my priorities and what else I have going on. And if I don't get to it that soon, I don't want to feel behind. I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel like, oh my God, I can't remember what happened. I don't know how to journal it. So I have my Hobonichi cousin, which is something I do keep regularly. I add to it daily, sometimes every 2 days. But I add to it what I did at the time. So no matter when I go back to put my project life spread together, I do have that Hobonichi cousin available as a reference to pull some details from. So I'm just looking at that off screen and pulling some details for each of these stories. And I'm just kind of expanding a little bit on whatever I stamped out. On the right side of this card, it only had space for the 3 days because of the 7 days of the week. And so they were a little bit larger and I didn't really have that much I wanted to say. So I left some white space. I considered adding a sticker in there and I decided, I'm just going to leave it. Now I'm finally moving on to this 1 through 5 card, and I'm going to stamp out some words for other stories that I wanted to tell. I didn't use the method that I used last time of stamping, where I'm going to do write out all the words and then figure out the best way to use the letters, because I didn't know what I wanted to write. And rather than planning it out, I'm just kind of stamping out as I think of things. So I'm looking at my Hobonichi cousin, I'm looking at my photos, I'm pulling some story ideas. So what my first 2 were real stories I really wanted to tell. One was just going on evening walks, and I have that one photo from that. The second one was I made potato salad on Saturday, which is not something I normally do. And I wanted to just make note of that, especially because there weren't any photos about it. And then I was a little bit stuck. I didn't really know what else to document. So I put reading for number 3, because I'm always reading. And I made some notes about what books I read this week. Number 4, I stamped the TV shows that I was currently watching during this week. And number 5, I stamped my daughter's name, and I decided to just fill in an update about her and what she was doing this week. She is home from college right now. Or during this week, she was home from college. So she is here and living life around me and around, so her schedule is impacting mine a bit more than when she doesn't live at home. But I still consider Project Life a documentation of my life, not of the people in my family. So my daughter, I have a separate album for her that documents her life. And so she only really shows up in my Project Life when she's part of my story. Occasionally I will just pull in some other things, like if she sent me a photo or something and I don't have other content to fill the spread, but that is definitely not my priority in this project. However, for this card, you can see I kind of ran out of stories to tell, but of course there's always stories. You can always find more stories. And that's why I put what I was reading, what I was watching, and what my daughter was up to. I also could have done other things like put, what did I eat every day? What were my favorite things that I was loving at this point in time? What was the weather like? What's my favorite outfit that I was wearing? There's always something to journal about. So if you have a card like that, you can always come up with more things. But that's why I really like having that Hobonichi cousin, because those little tiny stories from the week, I wouldn't remember them. Not that I wouldn't remember them, especially for something like this where I'm documenting only a couple weeks behind, but I wouldn't remember which week they fall in. I would remember, generally this is what, I've been watching Degrassi, but would I know that I was watching it specifically during this week? Probably not. So I just went ahead and slipped everything in the pockets and called this one done. Here's a look at that completed spread. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.